Welcome to the Man-Ology Project podcast. I am your host, Quentin Crumby, and on this channel, we're going to be discussing what true manhood looks like as we understand our value, our identity, and our purpose as men using godly principles. Now let's get to it. Hey, welcome back to the Man-Ology Project podcast, where I'm your host, Quentin. And man, I got a great show for you guys today. So you know what we do on here, man. We talk about just some great things around men, common issues that we all deal with. And then we try to come up with some great solutions that all men deal with, and just kind of promote that and push it into our lives so that we can be better men, better Christians, better business owners, et cetera, et cetera. But I have been able to track down a young man that is out here for the Lord, of course, a Christian show. But this guy has built a great brand around Christian apparel, some premium fitness wear. He has a great story about his life, how he got there, and I'm gonna let him dive all into that great stuff. But I want to introduce you guys to a great co-host on today. I mean, not co-host, but a great guest on today, and his name is Dahl. And this guy is the founder and CEO of 3 Nails premium clothing line. What's going there, Mr. Derek?
How's it going, brother? Happy to be here.
We're happy to have you on here, man. Like I said, founder, CEO of the brand 3 Nails premium clothing line. As I read your information, you did not leave that out. It was more premium than anything. But I'm happy for you to come on here, as we were talking earlier, man. Thank you for just coming on to share your story. Also being a person who has a Christian apparel company, it is really fantastic to be able to hear someone's journey on how they became a success in this type of business, seeing that there are so many Christian apparel companies out there, from hoodies, caps, coats, fitness gear, and just want to talk about how you separated yourself from that. And then we want to talk about a little bit about that work-life balance, marriage, kids, how does that all fit in with the business? And then, how do you keep your sanity and all of that, managing employees? We as men, we're out here, some men are struggling, man, on how to keep balancing that. And you may not be perfect, but I'm sure you have some solutions and some ideas on how to at least help us continue the great fight of being successful businessmen, all while having families. So if you would, just go ahead and introduce yourself, and then tell us a little bit about family life and a little bit about the business.
Yeah, for sure. You want me to go deep in depth with the whole story, or just kind of just family stuff right now?
You know what? Why don't we do this? We're going to leave family for all, because I want family to tie into the business.
Okay.
Kind of just walk us through the business. How do we get to 3 Nails? Let's talk about that first. How do we get 3 Nails clothing?
It's a long story, and if you give me the open mic, I mean, I'll be here for 10-15 minutes.
Listen, man, go ahead and enjoy it.
Yeah. So my name is Dahl. I grew up in a small town called Spring Lake Park, Minnesota. And essentially, my dream in life was to become a professional basketball player. I know I'm short, white, 5'10", white boy, but I could play ball, and I was the quickest man on the court. Ended up playing college basketball at a D3 school called Bethel my freshman year, transferred to St. Thomas in Minnesota. So I just played D3, but I had a chance of playing D2. I'm not going to get into it, but I ended up getting hurt, sprained my ankle for like the 17th time, got my 3rd concussion. Really was purposeless in life. I didn't know what my identity was at the time. And, I was really kind of going away from the Lord. And then a couple of years later, ended up meeting my wife, and really started getting back into my faith. And then I was working in the corporate world, working the 9-to-5 job, just felt like I was suffocating. Just honestly, just felt like no purpose. Really just was almost depressed at that time. And I had this idea of creating this, first premium Christian clothing brand. When you think of Christian clothing, you think of, more cheesier, big Bible quotes on just the cheapest fabrics, Like me and you
Right.
talked about it, you wash it once, it just shrinks up to like a kid size, 3T, and you can't wear it. And so, I wanted to wear other brands out there too that were the premium brands, but they had nothing to do with faith. And then obviously, like I said, having the cheesier Christian clothing brands, I didn't want to wear that as well. So I'm just like, well, where can I find something like this to meet
Right.
in the middle? And there was nothing out there. And I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew that I was not an employee. I mean, I was a job hopper, jump from job to job every 6 months, just terrible. And one day I just decided to take the full leap of faith. I had $126 in my pocket. I hired a designer on the internet to come up with logo. It was actually this website where anybody could bid on the project, and they would come up with all these different logos, and you would have lists where you can just decide. And so I was going through hundreds of these logos that these artists created, and I saw the cross logo, and I knew right then and there that was it. And so that started the journey. And kind of fast forwarding here to that was in 2017 when I finally launched the brand. My wife gave birth to our son Daxon in 2018 in February. And during the birth, she became extremely ill. She was deemed with chronic illness, something called Addison's disease,
Hmm.
and it's very rare. It's only like 1 out of 100,000 people in the United States actually have it. She has POTS, Mediterranean fever disease, and there's just Still's disease. There's just a few other autoimmune issues that she was dealing with. And on top of that, they left a little bit of the placenta in her, and that caused an infection, which kind of made everything that was dormant in her alive. And so she was in
Oh,
the hospital for 26 days in a row. She couldn't see our newborn baby. I mean, she was on her deathbed. And I mean, she's had some really scary times where she's literally, one time she was at the Mayo Clinic and coded, and they literally had to, give her that EpiPen, essentially. I think that's what it's called, to literally, wake her up and get her back alive. They pulled off her toenail to wake her up. This is crazy stuff, but she's
wow.
alive
Yeah.
here. And, at this time I was 25 years old and she's 24, just young guns, and just so young to be going through this. So eventually my mom had to move in with us, help myself take care of my son that was, a newborn, while I was working a job. I was commuting an hour there and commuting an hour back home. And then I would come home, package up orders at night, and work till 2 a.m., 3 a.m. every single night. And at that time, we weren't making any money really with the brand. I was just trying to do the best that I could with Instagram, posting as much as I could, just working in this season in life where you were just trying to survive. And my wife lost her job, obviously couldn't work. All the bills were on my shoulders or on my shoulder. Even with my job, I was making 50K a year, my salary. I was still $1,000 a month behind on the bills, and there's
Yeah.
just no hope. Trying to get approved for food stamps, and then just kind of fast forward a little bit more too. Um, I lost my job. I got fired, and I just came to the scripts of, do I go full time in Three Nails, or
Right.
I go get another job? Because on paper, it's like, why would I be selfish and not go get a job? And
Right.
I've even had some family members tell me, "Hey, you're being selfish, for wanting to go full time in entrepreneurship with Three Nails," because we weren't making any money. But I felt in my heart, and I prayed about it. I knew God was telling me to go all in. And I tell you clear as day, man, I heard that from God. And so I did. And we made this decision where we sat down and said, hey, we're not going to pay the mortgage. And, I guess I want to say too that during this time when I was behind on my bills, we still chose to tithe every single paycheck, even though I couldn't even pay our bills. And I talked to my wife. I said, we're going to trust God that He's going to get us out of this no matter what happens. God doesn't want your money, He wants your heart. And
Yep.
so that was something that we decided that was solid. And then once I, I got fired, I didn't have any income. So it's like we were putting everything on the line. 8 months behind on our mortgage. Had a sheriff come to my doorstep, give me papers, said you have 30 days to leave the premises before the auction sale takes place. I felt like a failure, man. And I went and I saw this ad for this Facebook ads course, and it was $4,000. I had no money, but I knew that this was kind of like my ticket out. So I put on a
Right.
credit card. This was a month right before Black Friday of 2019. So it's just a few years ago. And man, it just honestly almost like makes me emotional just thinking about it, just because of like how much like just like it just felt like no hope in my life at that time. And we did this photo shoot downtown Minneapolis where I booked this place for $400 for I think like 4 hours. Got a bunch of my friends to model for me, and along this time too, I taught myself how to do video work and editing, and so I did this video campaign and did some photos, and just a dream and a credit card, and we launched the ads and everything that I've been working on so hard, and it blew up. It just completely took my brand. Like if there's one place where my brand took that quantum leap forward and we were never to remain the same, that was the time, was Black Friday of 2019. And I made $28,000 that month, and that was the most money I've ever seen in my life at that time. And I went to I remember it like yesterday, man. I went to Barnes and Nobles, and I wrote myself a check for $1,200. That was it out of the 28,000, just to pay my mortgage and just to show that we were serious about trying to make this work. And they surprisingly, I didn't think they would even take the money, but they were able to work out a deal. We got a home modification loan, and we were able to make a deal, and sales continuing to increase. And I literally took all the rest of that money, I threw it right back in inventory because I knew we were going to make money from it. And we still have the house to this day. Praise God. And I mean, I was just this close, man, just this close to moving in with my parents and having my newborn son. And yeah, so just going from there, fast forward to today, we were able to move into a 5,000 square foot warehouse. I have 3 full-time employees, and we have, contractors and everything that we work with as well. And just kind of giving you just the big bird's eye view is, I've been able to build this into a multi-7-figure business, within the last 4 years. And truly is God made a way when there seemed to be no way. And I took action, right? Like I worked my butt off. I did my part. But if it wasn't for God and the idea, the vision, the connections, the networking that he brought across, we would have never been here. And so I'm just so thankful and grateful for it, and is why I want to, get my story out there to give God glory as much as I humanly possibly can. So that was a lot of information, but that's pretty much the short story of it.
Listen, man, that was not even enough information. I think that um, your story is perfect for this podcast. And as you can see on the ticker, is that basically, as men, we need to grow in 3 areas: relationships, faith, and in our health. And these are 3 areas that I think that are very paramount to us actually being, vessels that God can actually use. Now I'm gonna go all the way back to the beginning, right? Because
Yeah.
the one part that makes all this stuff, men, if you're watching it or listening, is that what really makes this balance work is first having a faith, and not just throwing the word faith out to be with any faith. We're talking about the faith with the true living God. So which and really and not just saying that you love God or you're a Christian, but being able to lean into Him when you have that no hope. And that's the part I like that you spoke about, which is when it came down to it, the one thing you were confident in was that God could actually change the situation. Um, you're pretty young to have that type of faith, like, and for you to say 29, dude, I'm like, you could like almost be my son. It's I'm literally, I'll be 47 this year. And so,
And
yeah,
seriously, you look like you're in your
yeah,
30s.
dude,
You're aging great.
dude, I thank you for that. But literally, I'll be 47. And so when I hear that, I'm like, wow, dude, that's so young to be able to have that perspective around your faith, man, and to truly love God. Um, but the thing I want the listeners to get is this, is that when you do give it to them and you say that you heard from them, you should have the way out. And what I do love to see is that in 4 years, God has given you truly the way out of that circumstance, which says that you did hear from God, and and you understand that you had some work to do, but the ultimate work was God actually doing it. You know, you did the work, but for him to just show up to do it is just paramount. And I think as men, man, we fall short in that hope, that hopeless piece that we run into sometime in life. And so I'm glad that you were able to speak to um, that piece. So my thing is that why fitness? You know, why a fitness apparel company and not just clothing? Period. You know, I see you out there, man. They got jogging suits. They got, but not fitness jogging suits. Like we're just talking about like just everyday jogging suits. There's so many different styles out there. But why did you choose or go with the fitness brand?
Yeah. So fitness is so important in my life. Again, the whole like professional basketball dream. I
Mhm.
lived in the gym in my childhood. We didn't have a lake cabin. My house that I grew up in, very lower to middle class family. My parents, amazing people, always believed in me. But my dad was super into sports. Most competitive man I ever known in my life. Was very hard on me, and he was my coach from first grade all the way up to eighth grade. And so, basketball, football, baseball, and just having that competitiveness, learning from him, being in sports my whole life. And something that I didn't mention either is, I have my personal training certification. Well, back in the day, I got it. Actually started a little
Okay.
side business where I did online training for people. Didn't do anything, man. Didn't really go anywhere. Um, but I loved it, and I was actually a trainer at a few gyms before I went to the corporate world. And so, yeah, like I thought that was kind of, the next thing for me was becoming like a full-time trainer. And so, and again, yeah, you look at like just myself, my own wardrobe. It's so weird I'm in fashion because I'm not like a guy who's into fashion. Like I had
Yeah.
like the same pair of jeans for like 15 years.
Yeah. Right. Me too.
Or just like Nike and Adidas my whole life. And yeah, looking at just the market, there's nothing out there, in that niche, in that, premium aspect. And so that's why we chose to go there.
Yes. Yeah. Now I'm gonna bring something up that I just watched on your Instagram post, and you talked about momentum. Um, kind of bring that here about that momentum and how that shifts and how the negative and the positive. Kind of talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I think that the quickest way to change your life is to change your momentum. And how to, the video was about how to get unstuck. Everyone asks, how do I get unstuck? I just feel like I'm in this cycle of just, going to work, going back home, watching Netflix. I'm not living my dream. I'm not happy with where I'm at. And it's like, you just have to take that first step. This game is long term. This isn't short term.
Yeah.
You have to, like, for myself, it's so daunting to be like, how do you create a $1 million brand? It doesn't come overnight, like and
Right.
this is years, right? Like think about it, like 2 years, I didn't pay myself a dime through three nails. Not any money was made out in my name. So I was like,
Yes.
just finally, like, year three is really where I started to be able to pay myself. 3 years, like, are you able to sacrifice your
Right.
time, not play video games, not go home and watch Netflix, work on your dream, read books, listen to podcasts, do things that are actually beneficial for your health, your growth, self-development. I mean, get your stuff together so that you can live a better life, not only for yourself, but for your family. And that's just like how my mindset works, is like, if you want to get ahead in life, you have to sacrifice. You're going to sacrifice something. And there's
Right.
going to be seasons where you're going to have to lose sleep. And so, if your goal is to read 30 minutes a day, pick up your book and read, just a couple pages. And I'm the
Right.
type of person that just has to go all in. Like, I'll just say, hey, cold turkey, I need to read the 30 minutes, but there's some people that do need to take those baby steps. So
Right.
just start, just show up to the gym. Don't worry about, okay, I got to work out 4 to 5 times this week. It's
Right.
like, man, just grab your bag, go to the gym, start these habits. And over time, you're going to start gaining momentum. And ultimately, that positive momentum is going to gain confidence in yourself. You're going to say, hey, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. And that you wake up on that first alarm, you don't hit snooze, and you do that consistently for
Yep.
the first week, second week, and after a month. you're going to gain confidence in yourself, and you're going to really believe in yourself. Like, hey, I am that guy that I envision myself to be. And that was just like, it's the identity shift of where you're at now, not being happy with where you're at. And then shifting that into what is the person that you want to be ultimately. What is that man of God that I envision myself to be, that I strive to be? And of course, our identity is in Christ, but that identity of, I am a person that wakes up on time. I am a person that follows through and has character, that if I say I'm going to be there at 2:00, I am there by 2:00. I'm not showing up at 2:15.
Right.
Always following through on your promises. And that was something that my mom always instilled in me at a young age, is character and integrity. That my dad unfortunately passed away in 2020 from
Oh,
COVID.
sorry to hear that.
But he was just someone that was a hero to me in some aspects, but some things he just didn't do very well. Character and integrity is something that he slipped on.
Yeah.
Was always late, and just that was like who what all that I knew. And so my mom just like, do not be like your father. Have character and integrity. And so that's like that envision of that person I want to be in my life. Like that's my identity, is a man of God, someone that has character and integrity, and is going to do what I say. I'm not perfect. I do mess up from time to time, but that's something that I strive to be at.
Yeah. I think I like that. I have a 17-year-old son, and from day one, I pretty much pride myself on character. For the simple, and listen, and I'm bringing this up because of the same reason. My mom and my dad got divorced when I was 10. And so my dad was like really like all over the place. It was just crazy, dude. But that's really what even my mom said. Even when I was like 6 or 7 years old, I would come to her and really talk about that, like all the whys, like why he can't just, or why wouldn't this just be? And so I just promised God, like, yo, if I get a son or a daughter, a wife or whatever, man, I promise that first of all, I'm gonna live for you. So no matter how crazy I'm out here in these streets beforehand, because I wasn't saved all my life, I was, but once I got married, I wanted to dedicate my life to Christ. And basically, the woman that I married had to understand that. And then we had to understand the whys around why we have to do that. Because you can't stay diligent at character and integrity without being diligent to your relationship with Christ. The two go hand in hand. If there's no diligence with your relationship with Christ, now, mind you, we're already, not perfect. And then if you take away Christ, it makes it even more tough to even be anywhere near the type of character and integrity that it takes to actually have something going on in your life. And you know that in business, man. I'm sure you've worked with people over these last years that it's like, I thought he was a Christian, right? And I think that's like some of the worst things you can actually walk away from the table and go, I thought we both were serving the same God. And how can you possibly be here? And we both should be here, not I'm here. No, but we both should be over here, and you're going along with the world, and you're over here. So I love that your mom, in spite of, was able to still drill in you the character and that integrity. And I'm going to tell you guys out there that this is the brand to shop from. I spoke with this guy Derek probably about a year ago on coming on my podcast, and everything was going left and right. We could not get together. But I'm going to tell you that his character and integrity is true to the dot. True to the dot. He reached back out to me after all this time to honor something that he said he was going to do to someone he's never even met before. And I'm bringing this up because that speaks volume. I literally told my wife when he hit me up is that now I buy a lot of stuff. I say, but I am now transferring all of my fitness money to this brand from that simple act that this guy actually has pure character and integrity, because he didn't have to reach back out to me to join on my podcast because the time had went by. You know how we are with guys. Once the time go by, it's like, if he hits me up, he hits me up. But Derek literally hit me back up like, yo, dude, I owe you something. I owe you a conversation around, family and business and stuff. And I wanted to kind of honor that. And I'm thinking, this, like, I already followed them and thought that it was a great brand, but I'm gonna tell you that piece solidified that you don't just talk it, that you actually walk and stand behind what you say. So I wanted to throw that little plug in for 3nailsclothing.com. Get on there and get you something. I have not purchased anything yet. I'm not on here acting like I own everything 3 nails. But what I will tell you, that just that connect back to me showed me that this is where my money needs to go. Because this guy means and says what he says. And we're going to get into what his mission is and what he stands behind from the business. And I'm going to tell you that this is where you want to put your money for a guy who's got a mission ahead. Okay, so now let's jump into, we talked about faith, we talked about some business, and we're going to continue to talk about faith. But you gave us a little bit about that relationship piece. You told us a little bit about your wife having some health issues and stuff. From a man's perspective, give us the real deal, man. How hard has it been to be mom and dad in some aspects of rocking and rolling with the little fella?
Yeah, man. I mean, I could take this in so many different ways. It's hands down the hardest thing that I've ever gone through in my whole life. Especially just, at the time being 25 years old, having a new business, new baby, sick wife that I'm trying to visit, just everything. It, it is so difficult. And because I've never known anybody that's gone through chronic illness personally
Yes.
in my life, or family members, or anybody, or, a spouse, everyone looks at the person that has the illness, of course, but it's seeing the spouse. You don't see the mental battles that they go through. And it's not saying poor me, right? We're
Right.
men. I don't
Right.
ask for sympathy. It's just like, hey, you man up and you got to get it done. Just kind of like the whole foreclosure thing, almost foreclosing our property. Like, no one cares. Nobody cares. Like, no one's going to write
They
me a
don't
check.
care.
It's like, give it to God, put the work in, and
Yep.
man up and do it. So, yeah, I mean, there's been many, many months where I felt like a single father, essentially, where my wife was just literally lived in the hospital more than at home,
Yeah.
and just having to take care of him, with the help of course, my mom, and then now my sister. I've hired my sister to essentially be our full-time nanny and to help us out, and she's been an amazing
That's
you
awesome.
auntie to our son. And but yeah, it just, I guess the real deal is there's a lot of mental battle that you go through. I mean, the devil just, planning just thoughts in your head of doubt of, you know, is my wife going to be alive, by the end of this year, in the next month? Like, is she still going to
Right.
be here? And I know everybody was praying for my wife's health, and, even just kind of going deeper on this, I've just been raised in a home of, praying first, having a great prayer life. And um, I almost got to the point where I was just like, what am I doing wrong with my life? Like, I'm trying to live a holy life out here, making the check off list of everything that I'm doing, read my Bible. I'm like, why aren't my prayers working? Why is Gabby so sick and she just can't catch a break? And I mean, it's kind of selfish to think that way. It's just like, you don't understand why some people make it and some people don't. But I was in the shower one night and I was just praying. And I mean, I was just, again, this was before, like, or like almost foreclosed and everything. And those thoughts of just like, and what am I doing wrong with my prayer life? And you could say it was from God or not. I don't know at that time, but the voice said, Derek, all those prayers that everybody's been praying kept your wife alive. So
Right.
that perspective shift to, why isn't my wife healed, from that to all those prayers are keeping her alive.
Right.
Like, quit being so selfish and
Right.
thinking, something instantly is going to happen. And so I needed that. Like, I do really believe life is all about perspective, and 10% of life is what happens to you, and 90% is how you react to it, not the other way around. Like, we
Exactly.
have the control to react how we react to the things that we can control, but the things that we can't control, like my wife's health, that's not a burden for me to carry. That's for God. And for us,
Right.
like it says in First Peter, cast all your anxieties and cares for, onto me, for I care for you.
Right.
And so that's not our burden to carry. And I mean, it's easier said than done. I mean, how do you
Because it's
not?
our listen, it's your wife, and that is the ticket.
Yeah.
It's like I want to cast everything, but God, you put me here as a protector and a caregiver and all of this great stuff to this woman. You know what I'm saying? And so I could see how it gets really tricky. But I also want to say something in the middle here is that I think that that's probably because I didn't want you to go too far ahead because I had a point on the thought
Yeah.
behind instantly how we can go from being helper server to selfish.
Hmm.
You see how tricky the enemy is on that, and as men it gets weird, right? Because my thing is that in this part right here where you're wonky, right? It's like all this crazy stuff going on. Like, well, who are you talking to? Because most men don't have um, outlets to give this information up to anybody because we don't really like people having, I call it ammunition. Like we don't give up information because we don't like people to have information about us to use against us, basically. And so where did you go? I mean, other than God, did you, because God is, we all say go to God, but where's the safe place here? Brother, cousin, uncle, was there any other man to actually go and pour into to get some type of relief, basically?
I mean, that's a tough question because although, during all this time, my dad was here. My dad was a great dad, always there for me, every game and all that stuff growing up. But he was not the guy that I went to talk about things. Just I don't know, just was not a, how do I say this? A good listener, but just my mom was that person. My mom
Yeah.
is kind of like the rock that I would go to talk about. She's just very thought logically, in like a um just human sense, because sometimes you can be overly spiritual and sometimes you need a good mix of just like, hey, okay, as a human I understand why you're
Man.
feeling these emotions, but
Yeah.
then tying in the spiritual aspect. So but again, my mom was living with us taking care of my son and she was burning out, so I really didn't have anybody to lean on as much because we're all just trying to survive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially growing up, I was the person, just leader in my community, my friends and, family members and everybody kind of like just leaned on or looked up to. And so it's like when I feel like I'm breaking and I don't have anybody to lean on, I really felt like my whole life was just going to break. And I, had a couple of panic attacks during that time. But again, it was just, just being 100% real with you. I'm so thankful for the vision of Three Nails because that was my escape. So I didn't go to a certain person or thing. Um, uh, I went to building my business, and that was my mental escape. Was, the hope of a better future, and then just the optimism of that my wife will be healed one day. And of course, the only the only relief that I ever got was praying. And I remember going on a 3-day fast. It was just water fast, praying for my wife's health, instead of eating meals, right? Spending time in God's word, really just meditating. And again, I'm not a perfect person, I'm not the perfect Christian, but I was like desperate for answers. And I mean, I love food, man. I'm a huge foodie. So for me to give up food for 3 days, oh man, that was one of the hardest things in my life. So, but I did. I felt God's presence with me during that time. And even though it didn't fix anything immediately, angel didn't come down from heaven, with a glorious light. Like,
Right.
yeah, like some people may think. It just the testing of my faith. I was so tested, and even now I go through the same stuff. And it's just going back to your principles. Um, and yeah, obviously just going back to God and saying, God, I physically, mentally cannot handle this, please help me. And there was even some days where I literally didn't even have enough mental energy because I'm running off of 3 hours of sleep, or I couldn't even like pray, but all I said was just help me, God. And it's
Yeah.
like that's all I could utter that day. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And that's the part and that's why, fellas, that's why this podcast was created because I want us we have to be able to decompress. and I say that because um, suicide and heart attacks are the leading killers for men. Um, for this very reason is because we pack all this stuff in. And even and this is I'm not even talking outside of being a Christian. I'm talking about like being a Christian. We still pack all this stuff in. And even giving prayer and all that, casting on the Lord and all that stuff, the human part of you still suffers, like right. So it still has to endure. And that's why this whole testimony, babe, this is I'd say conversation, but it's like more like a testimony
Yeah.
with Mr. Derek. But just being able to have a place to really just kind of kick it. And I'm my prayer is that the Man-Ology project can start to grow to where we can start creating these pockets of safety where men can fly out and hang out for a weekend to just reload and dump all of that all of that stress off somewhere, man, and get back. So because ultimately we got to be fresh for our homes, for our families. And I speak of this because of like what have going on. You got to stay fresh, and the only way you can stay fresh is that you have to say something to somebody. Um, and whether you're praying to the Lord or talking to a close person that you can just dump this information on and walk away, without any strings attached or nothing. That's another part about this podcast that I love is that, hey, you get to come on here and just dump it. And then, what I'm saying? You can dump it, man, and then just leave it. And you feel good about it. It's like, man, I was able to tell how I've been feeling, how I overcame, how the Lord has helped me. And then you just feel good about that because it's like a relief. And so I'm just happy that you um, have been extremely, open and vulnerable to be able to tell your story. Because I'm learning a lot from hearing, just this little portion of the strength of you, and then also how God will take care of us. Like ultimately, God will take care of you and put you in a better position. And the thing is this, as Christians, we're not guaranteed, you're not really guaranteed all the other stuff outside of heaven. Because he told us clearly in his word that you're gonna endure stuff on this earth. Like you're not gonna be on this earth and not go through stuff. You're gonna have to go through stuff. But going through that stuff actually shows even more on why I'm needed. Like it showed you on why I'm actually needed for peace, right? And I'm saved because of the peace. Everything else is extra add on. But man, to have peace that surpasses understanding, you can't buy that, bro. You can't even like where you're sitting right now. You thinking that you went all through that stuff. Do you know how much peace it takes to be able to go through that at 25, 6? Dude, that's a kid still. Like there's guys out here that's 30 that don't even know what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, literally 40 years old, dude, that have no clue what's going on in life. And then God chose you to actually endure all of that. And he only did it because basically he knew that you can handle it.
Amen.
And that I'm literally just telling you that, dude, he only does stuff. You only take on stuff that he knows that you can handle.
Yeah.
I mean, literally at 25, you would have never got that if he didn't think that you can actually handle it. He didn't give that to somebody else. He gave it to Derek because Derek can handle it. I gave Derek that wife because Derek is going to be able to handle all that takes place with that. And on top of that, dude, I'm going to give him a bomb of a business. You know what I'm saying? Like literally, I'm going to give you a bomb of a business because you're going to need money to be able to go through this stuff so that you're not really worrying about stuff, dude. And ain't nothing wrong with making money when you got stuff going on and the money part of your life is taken care of and you don't have to worry about that. And now you can focus on, the wife and the kids and all that. And then you've got a great mother and a fantastic sister to help you, dude. All that family love. I thank God that he's showing you, man, that, the love, like you God truly love. And you're only 29, which is still just crazy that you're still so young. But just to see how calm you are, just shows that God has got you covered and protected, man. So what about your son? What is he? What part of that? Because I know that he has to bring the ultimate joy. He's like the whipped cream and the cherry on top.
You can see me smiling. I just
Listen. The kids they're like whipped cream and cherry and peanuts all at the same time being a headache, you know? It's
Yeah.
like, so how's that been like with him? And then being able to show, because he's watching you every day, right? So you're showing this dude something that you just can't purchase. You can't purchase what God has done for you to show him. So how's that been?
It's amazing, especially given my wife's health. Like even before she got chronically ill, she was dealing with some autoimmune issues, like I said. So the chances of us to even get pregnant were pretty low, and for us to even have a baby at the time, like literally one of our doctors said, like he's a miracle child. So for him
Yeah.
to even be here, like, is a miracle in and of itself. And I just always promised myself of I'm going to take the good things that I learned from my father, but I'm going to do things a lot differently than what he did. And again, I was never really like close with my father as like I really wanted to be or strive the relationship that I wanted to have with him. And I never want my son to feel that way with me. I want him to know that he can come with me with anything, whenever he needs help. That I'll listen there, be there for him. Um, and just give him the life that I never had growing up either. And another dream of mine was just to be able to have like his own escape, his own gym to go to. And even like this warehouse is just so much bigger than just having a business here. I've been able to build my own gym in it. So we've got everything to work out in here. I've got a half court basketball court. And my dad promised me, again, this is like the character thing, right? My dad's like, hey, we're going to build a half court basketball court in the backyard, one of these summers. And it never came to be. And I would ask him like every summer, Dad, we're going to build it and concrete it. And he's like, yeah, I'm just busy right now. It's just not the right time. And it never happened. It broke my heart, So I'm like, um, getting this warehouse, and I actually have a video of myself and my dad. We built the basketball hoop. And that night we stayed here till like midnight, just shooting hoops with each other. And we were talking. I was like, Dad, do you remember when you promised that you'd build that court? And it didn't ever come through. I said, hey, you know what? Like, this is fulfilling that right now because
Yeah.
Dax is going to have this growing up. And it was just an emotional moment because it's just like, I don't know, man, like the dreams and everything that you have, it just seems so like unreal. And for it to actually like manifest in real life is just so cool. And just kind of going back to the son that, like, my son, though, just, man, like everything revolved around him. And of course, there's some challenging moments and just parenting and different things. But he really is a great kid. And it's like, I still haven't gone on vacation since I've been in seventh grade. And just because, my wife's health and everything. But it's like, I could care less about going to a beach and having a pina colada. I just want to go to Disney World and see the joy on my son's face. And dude, I
Right.
just want to make that kid the happiest kid ever. And he brings me so much joy through this all. And even with my wife, Gabby, um, she's even said, I mean, she's gone through a lot of depression, as you can imagine. And one thing I didn't mention is my wife, Gabby, was Miss Minnesota in 2014. So she was a pageant girl, just bright, beautiful. I mean, most beautiful girl I ever laid eyes on. And for her she was doing public speaking,
Hmm.
across different stages, and just that woman, very extroverted, and going from that to literally being in bed all day long. And even like
Yeah.
still to this day, she's in bed majority of the day. And
Yeah.
she was on 28 prescriptions every single day just to keep alive. And now they have her down to like 9 or 10, which is still a lot, but big
Yeah.
perspective, she's making progress. But anyway, she even said, if I didn't have Dax in here, like, I don't know if they're like, I know it sounds bad, but like, for a reason to like really keep going
Right.
in this life, just all the hospital visits and stuff. But he's just brought us so much joy. And I know not to take it for granted because there's a lot of people out there that don't have the ability to get pregnant, and it's been a huge issue. And it's like, yeah, during this time of crisis and in the storm, God's has provided for our family, given me a business, given us a business, given us a son that we love and cherish, and that I'm able to father. And it's a whole nother job, and it's a whole nother role and responsibility. But it's my favorite thing. It's my favorite thing. I look forward to it every single weekend of what we can do, and yeah, man, just loving it.
Yeah. That's probably one of the biggest things too that I was going to talk about is that men building the right type of relationships with their sons. And I think from an old school standpoint, uh, the dads back then just didn't care more about the relationship part more than just the fathering part, right?
Mm,
And learn how to fix a tire, learn how to change your oil, learn how to do this. So it's more fathering than it is relationship. Um, and that's cool. But when you become a Christian and when you listen to the way that God said, to build to build this family, it's all relational. Uh, and it starts with love and it ends with love. It starts with service, it ends with service. And as a man of the house, that's basically what we to do. We think basically that um, the more money we make, the better things are going to be. And when you find out that the money actually doesn't mean anything more than the relationship at the end of the day, the money satisfied just paying bills and stuff. But overall, man, it's about the life part of it, not the work, but the life balance that's going to mean the most because that's what your son is really going to remember the most. He really won't care too much about how much money you guys had,
mhm,
uh, but he will. And I'm saying this because of how you feel about how your dad with the whole basketball hoop is that it doesn't really matter about all the other stuff. It's just that we didn't get a chance to build this basketball hoop together and play hoops, right? To where in your mid 20s you end up doing it and you can still get emotional about it. So that just kind of just shows you the centerpiece around men and sons, fathers and sons, on how they build their relationship. Like I said, my dad and my mom got divorced, so I didn't really know. And me and my brother was just talking about this the other day, and he was like, as a father, without your father being present relationally like that, when your son is pulling on you for that, you actually don't even know what it looks like. So you don't even know. You're like, I'm doing a great job, and you're not. You think you are,
mm,
and we're
yeah,
laughing because we both, we're brothers, so we both are like, we got sons, and he's like, man, my son like dad, 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 and he's like, I didn't have that growing up. Like I wasn't calling my dad all day. I was calling my mom all the time. And then I had the same experience even with my own son. But God told me at 9 years old, because I didn't want that. I didn't want where me and my son didn't have a relationship. At the end of it all, I wanted him to be able to come to me. And you mentioned that, which is, man, I really didn't go to my dad like that. And so I literally, and I've heard that being a mentor of men, that's probably number 3 on the list of hard things that men go through, is that once their sons are older, that their sons don't really connect with them like that.
mm,
And at that point, they feel like it's the son's problem. Like, he doesn't call me, he doesn't do this. And I'm thinking, you're the father, it's still on you.
yeah,
Like, you think that it's him to do to you, but it really isn't. It's really you to go to him. Even though you're 60 and he's 40, it's still for you to go to him. It's not for him to bend over backwards to come to you, because you're the father. Just like it's his job to do that for his son, and his son to do it for his son. No son goes and bends over backwards to go back to the dad. Like, God was always pushing Jesus. Jesus wasn't ever going back to God. Oh, what about this? What are you not? No, it was more God setting up everything about Jesus' life. I got Mary here. I got Joseph here. I got this here. It's a hard thing already for Jesus to do this, but God always made sure things were always in place. And so as men, that's just something that I think that will will help at the end. And like, even for you being a big businessman and all that stuff, I'm happy that you see your son as something that is very important. And I'm going to tell you that as much as what you have external, that the relationship with your son internally is going to always win out. When he gets older and he can look back and be like, my dad was there though, dude. Like, he did all of that, but when I needed him, he was always there. And so I like that that's something that's on your mind. I do pray that you can actually stay on top of that, because it's very hard when once your business get to a certain level, it's very hard to do that balance. That's why I wanted to talk about work and life balance, because it's extremely hard to do both when you get to a certain trajectory in life is that your trajectory, sorry, in life when it comes to a business. So uh, let's talk about the what is the Three Nails mission? And because I love that I saw that you guys are, in partner with the human trafficking
Yeah.
foundation called, is that Ames mission?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Because I literally just connected with a Saving Innocent project out in California, and they're a huge human trafficking program out there. And they're part of FBI. I mean, I just had an interview with that guy, with Mr. Alan Smith over there a couple of weeks ago. And human trafficking is a real deal situation. And I love that when I was diving into your website, that you guys are a part of that fight. And I think that as men, it is our job, since we're the biggest problem of human trafficking, that we become one of the greatest solutions to getting it fixed. And I love that your company um, pours money into that. So, kind of talk a little bit about the connection there for you guys.
Yeah. So, Three Nails mission, our mission is to inspire others to pursue their purpose in life, discover the purpose that God has given them and pursue that every single day, because everybody has a purpose, every single one of us. And God has given every single one of us specific talents and skills to carry that out. So the first and foremost, that's our mission. And of course, like my purpose in life is to be a kingdom businessman. And my purpose isn't to be a missionary. However, with the talents and skills that God has given me, we can fund those missionary trips, and we
Yes.
can help organizations like AIM. And I was so excited to find someone like them, because a lot of these organizations, starting out, they'll go and they'll save one girl or two girls from a brothel, but AIM actually connected with the government in Cambodia, and they have SWAT teams that literally kick down the doors, and they'll save 22 plus girls at a time, and then they'll arrest the guy that's running this brothel. And so, like, just finding that out, being able to
Yes.
help fund those things, and I mean, just especially child human sex trafficking and all that,
I know.
it breaks my heart to even think about it, especially now having like my son here. You
I
just
know.
look at these precious kids, and it's just like how corrupt and evil this world is. And if I could have any part in doing that,
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
100% gonna give into that.
Yeah.
And as the company's profits grow, we're 100% going to be giving more. And so, a lot of people ask us how much profit, we give, and a lot of companies out there like, oh, we just give 5% every single month. Well, we don't want to just give 5. We want to give more.
Right.
If some months we can only give 5, we'll give 5. We'll give nothing less than 5. But if some months we can give over 10, 15, 20% sometimes, we're going to do that,
Yep.
whatever, we can do. And so, yeah, I really think it just kind of goes back to finding your purpose in life, and then figuring out how to just serve other people, serve your gift to the world. And these issues that are just so prominent, the evil and corruption, that's not only overseas, right? Like it's here in the United
It's
States,
here. Yeah.
here in my state of Minnesota. There's a lot of like trafficking and stuff going on. It's just when you're in your bubble, you don't think about it, you don't see it, right? Out of sight,
Right.
out of mind. But it's here, it's real, and there's a devil out there, and there's real spiritual warfare, and we have to do everything we can as kingdom businessmen, especially, to use our funds, for God's kingdom purposes. And
Yeah.
that's the mission at the end of the day.